And welcome back to Automate Live. Nikki Gonzalez with Automation Ladies here, back on the very last day of the show. Wow, it has been a show. I can't even, I haven't been to all the booths like usual. So I'm really excited to talk to our guest today, Sharon from SICK. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on Automate Live. And I'm going to need you to tell me about all the stuff because I haven't been able to make it over to your booth yet. But I kind of I asked before, should I even ask who SICK is? Because having been in this industry for a long time, they're some, well-known entity to me as a sensor company. But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and SICK a little bit to those maybe that don't know who it is? Because this show keeps growing every year. We keep drawing new crowds, manufacturers that maybe haven't been, here. So yeah, please tell us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So SICK, maybe myself first. So my name is Sharon. I'm a systems application engineer at SICK. I've been with SICK for about 3 years now. And I mainly work in the robotics team with SICK. So think when we work with 6-axis manipulators, 4-axis manipulators, or when we work with autonomous vehicles like AMRs or forklifts, right? Adding sensors to automate these different solutions is where I mainly focus
Okay.
on, right? So that's vision, think 2D, 3D vision, think LiDAR-based solutions, code-based solutions, localization, all of that comes under robotics. Anything, any sort of sensors that can help automate systems is where I work on, right? To talk a little bit about SICK, SICK is a sensor manufacturing company based in Germany. We have our US headquarters in Minneapolis with offices in Detroit, Boston, Fremont, California, and Minneapolis. Yes, the headquarters.
Yeah.
So we have around 40,000 plus sensors out there. So
Wow.
I don't even know all of them. I haven't worked with all of them. That's a lot of sensors. We focus in areas in safety. We focus in robot guidance. We focus on control, quality control, inspection, dimensioning, measurement type of applications. So really, if you need a sensor for anything, I'm pretty sure SICK has it in their portfolio.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised to see that I would be interviewing somebody that was a robotics engineer at SICK because, again, I'm so well known for sensors.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. I've always known that these sensors are what is used
Yeah.
in a lot of the mobile platforms, a lot of the robotic platforms. But this time, you guys are actually integrating and providing robotics as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So SICK mainly, like I said, sensor manufacturing company. So we sell individual sensors, right? But with robotics, you can't just have a vision system and be like, robot go pick and place, right? There's a whole system that's involved in it. You need to have the right end of arm tool. You need to have the right safety, the right the vision concept set up correctly. So there's a lot that goes into a robotic system to make it actually do the task of pick and place. Unlike maybe having a photo eye or an ultrasonic sensor or something like that you place a sensor, it works, it does its thing, it gives you the data. Robotics is just a little more involved than that. There's a lot more components to actually make the application work. So what we've with SICK, and this is new for us that we're doing this year mainly, is we're starting to do turnkey solutions.
Okay.
So we're really doing the end-to-end, right? And it makes sense for SICK because SICK is that one-stop shop for everything sensors, so safety, vision, again, all those different components that I mentioned. So why go to different vendors and have to figure that out when you can just come to SICK and we do that entire design for you, right? So we have 2 types of turnkeys that we're providing, and we have demos of this at our show. So last day, I understand, but please, make sure to come by the
this
booth.
and you're on the floor,
Yeah.
go see the main SICK booth.
Yeah,
And you guys are also located in some other places, right? Have people in the education space.
Exactly, the education space, and we have a couple of other booths that are showcasing SICK Vision as well, both in the North and South Hall.
Okay.
So definitely stop by to check them out. So yeah, coming back to the turnkey, so we have 2 types of turnkey that we're providing. One is a Depal solution, so that is depalletizing of boxes. So mainly targeting, so think food and bev industry where you see a lot of these boxes, but that's also surprisingly the industry that does not do a lot of automation with robotics.
Okay.
So when we started doing that kind of analysis, we noticed that it was kind of an intimidating topic for them because they're like, yes, we want to bring in robots, but what next? How do we do it? Is it just a robot? Like what vision? Now there's safety. Oh, there's risk assessment. So it started to become a little bit of an intimidating topic for them.
Yeah.
And they didn't know who to go to, what's the right vendors. So when we then decided that, we're going to do turnkey for customers like that, it was received very well because, like I said, one-stop shop, and we do that entire design for you, right? So Turnkey Depal, we're using a 3D PLB vision system. We also are providing the safety concept for it. So based on the cell and what you want to do we have AMRs? Do we have conveyors involved in it? Is it just a simple pick and place? Like, what is the application? We designed that system for you.
Yeah.
We designed the safety concept. So should it be LiDAR, scanners, safe RS? What does that look like? We do that. We do the risk assessment. We are robot agnostic, so we can choose a different robot depending on the needs of the customer. But if you give it to us, we would go for it with a specific robot. The gripper, all of that is decided and set up for you, right? So
Okay.
at the facility, you just go. You have this one system that kind of opens up,
Yeah.
expands out, and that's it. The system's ready to run. We also have a user-friendly HMI that gives all the needed details. Without all the fluff that might confuse you and make it a little overwhelming. So it tells you which cell is being built, what's the status, which layer I'm at, things like that. So there's a lot of details you can set up in that HMI as well. Touchscreen, very easy to set up.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the first turnkey solution we have. The other turnkey we have is our collaboration with Feed-All Systems.
Okay.
So we noticed a gap in the 3D bin picking space. Like, everyone wants to use 3D bin picking.
Yes.
We have these deep bins with really small parts that they want to pick, and then they get mad when we can't pick 100%, and they're like, oh, it's the vision's problem. But if you truly look at it, most of the times it's a physics problem.
Right. You have
these
corners, deep corners of the bin, and the
Exactly.
end effectors, and how do they get in there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, even some of them, like if you think about springs or O-rings, they can kind of tangle up with each other.
Yeah.
And then now I'm picking a bunch instead of picking one. So now you have to have a different setup, a second stage to maybe separate them, things like that, right? So at one point, you are now fighting with the laws of physics.
Yeah.
And there's only so much vision can do at that point, right?
Yeah.
So we noticed that gap, and when this collaboration with Feed-All came in, we was like, it was kind of like an aha moment, because it's not a very new state of the art tech or anything. It's something
No.
very simple.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that when we fit it in this scenario, we're solving a really huge gap that was
Yeah.
there in this 3D bin picking space. So what we are doing is, we have a feeding system, so a hopper. You can have a hopper, no hopper, depends on how you want to do it. We have a feeding system where we can change the mats, we can change the vibratory needs of the feeding system, use a backlight, have additional illumination. You can set that up the way you want that to be. We have different sizes of feeding systems depending on the parts, the weight, things like that. And what this does is it essentially separates the parts for you. And now that the parts are singulated and separated, we can use a 2D vision system,
Yeah.
which is much easier of a tech to use and play around with and set up. Lower cycle times,
Yeah,
faster cycle times, yes, because it's a 2D system now, right, rather than 3D systems that typically have higher cycle times. So it's a simple solution with 2D, a feeding system of any size. Again, turnkey, so we do that entire build for you. We decide which camera goes in, how to set it up. We also integrate all of these components with our SIM 1012 controller.
Okay.
And again, all of that is already programmed and set up, and we have a very easy to use web-based UI.
Yeah.
So no IPC required for that system. You can plug it to your iPad, your laptop, just to review what's going on. That's how the system is built. So it's super simple, but solving a really challenging aspect that we face often with 3D bin picking. And this can often be switched with 3D cameras as well, depending on the parts that we're working with.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like when I first started coming to automate, cobots were kind of dominating, and they were one of the newer things. They weren't new.
Yeah.
But everybody was kind of coming out with their own cobot, and it was like some of us were walking around a show going, okay, how many? There's like 10, 20, 30, they're just proliferating everywhere. But most of the time you were just seeing the arm itself.
Yeah.
And I heard a lot at the time, kind of manufacturers going, okay, we need one of these. They're now accessible enough. They're inexpensive enough. We want to get one. And then they would get one, and then they're like, okay, now what do we do? Or we thought it would be good for this application, but we didn't know that we needed to account for the safety study or the end of arm tooling or just all these different things. And I think over the last few years, it's really been A, kind of an education, but B, I guess the maturity of the arms themselves and how easy they are to get now. Then it's really the integration that's become the problem. Everybody knows that they can use them. They're just not quite sure where and how. And I think the traditional integration route, although is very good for a lot of companies, particularly bigger companies that have established integrators that they're used to working with, but for maybe somebody kind of in their first foray into it, or they've stayed away from doing, let's say, depalletizing in an automated way because they may not have the engineering workforce on site, having something standardized that they can walk into, look at. Obviously, it's going to need to be customized a little, right, per application,
Yeah.
but you have these like standard building blocks that are all proven.
Mm-hmm.
How much does that shorten, you think, kind of the time to value with one of these systems versus picking your own cobot and then trying to go and figure out, okay, what comes with it, or going the traditional systems integration route?
I think significantly, right? Like it reduces the amount of time it takes to build a system like that significantly. It reduces the manpower that's involved in it because the decisions are now made by SICK to design that. And if we were to, and I think this is another key point of these turnkeys that we're providing is if it's one of the systems that we have that you see at our booth, which is most of our requests that we're getting, our turnaround time is 4 to 6 weeks for the whole system, right? And then it's all built ready. You just put it on the shop floor and plug it in, start, and it works, right? And this is safety, vision, all of that combined. The risk assessment's done, so definitely significantly reduces the amount of time it takes to from planning to actual executing and having it on the floor running. So definitely a huge, and it's 90% done. Yes, like you said, there's that 10% of fine tuning depending on the application, but 90% all of it is complete. It's done. It's ready and decided for you.
Okay, so somebody can also get a pretty good idea of the ballpark price before they ever start customizing it.
Correct. Yes, because we do have these, like you said, the components already ready, so we can give you like a rough range of what it would look like. For the Depal, like I said, it might change depending on whether you have conveying systems now, do you have an AMR involved in it, things like that. But yeah, you would get a ballpark idea of what the cost would be.
What does that process look like if somebody goes and sees one of these, let's say in your booth today, or we'll talk about where else people can see these going forward if they're not here or they ran out of time, because we're on the last day of the show. Do you guys then, kind of take the parts that they're going to be testing? Do you test it in the lab in order to, how do you figure out the rest of that 10% and work with somebody that wants to make sure that they've got the right thing for their application?
Yeah, so a little different for the two. The Depal system, because we're depalletizing mostly cases, boxes, things like that, we don't need to do any testing. We are very confident in our solution, and it's a very stable solution for an application like that, right? So it would just be reaching us to us, we create a project out of it, and then we start the planning from there. So directly reaching to the robotics team, essentially.
Okay.
And then with the feed-all system, it now, because we have these feeders and hoppers that vibrate in certain frequencies, depending on the part and the weight of the part, the shape of the part. Some parts might actually need a whole separate detangling system. So think again springs that actually combine. We might have this whole box that allows the springs to go into the box. They get thrown over all around the box, and then they come out separated. So some applications need a detangling system. So really, for the feeding system, for the feed-all system, we would need the parts to be sent to us. That's what we recommend. We do a quick test with the feed-all and the vision system that we have. We call it the flex feeding system. We do a quick test to understand what's the right size of the feeding system, the right settings and parameters, and that's about it. And then we start the planning from there.
And I assume that process goes pretty quickly once you receive the parts.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's a very standardized process. That's so cool. Do you do that at more than one of your locations?
Yeah. So our main robotics lab is in Detroit. So we have all of these components in Detroit. The feed-all, the company that we're collaborating with, is out of Ohio, so very close to Detroit. So that would be the best spot to send parts, things like that. But we also have a demo system that we're showcasing in our main headquarters in Minneapolis. So feasibility, I would say, would be Detroit would be the best spot. But to view our demos and see what we have out there, both Detroit and Minneapolis.
Very exciting. Well, I think we're got about a minute left. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you think everybody should really know about your work with robotics or SICK that we missed?
Yeah, no, just maybe to summarize what we said, right? So SICK is a sensor manufacturing company. We do sell sensors, but more recently, we're starting to do turnkey solutions, mainly in Depal space and in flexible feeding, picking type of applications. The main highlights being extremely easy to use, quick turnaround time, and customizability for your needs and application.
And probably also for the workforce shortage and younger operators and stuff like that. You guys are designing the user interface to be really easy.
Exactly. You don't need a high-end robotics or vision knowledge or understanding of or background to set these systems up. They're meant to be plug and play, very easy to navigate and set up.
All right, very cool. Well, if you guys are, if you haven't seen these, if you've thought of SICK as a sensor vision company, they obviously still are, but now come check out these robotic applications. And I'm assuming that you guys may be adding more functionality in the future.
Yeah.
You know, kind of taking what is most popular, most in demand by your customers, and then finding more things to standardize to
Absolutely.
provide to
More
the market.
applications. So we're doing Depal now. Maybe down the line, order commissioning is another one we might start providing turnkey solutions for. So yeah, let's see.
All right. Well, if you're here at the show, try to find SICK. And if you're not, we'll have some follow up content, and you guys can visit them in Detroit or Minneapolis to see these systems in person. Thanks, everybody. See you soon on Automate Live.